Welcome back to Dr. Toz Presents The Cost of Telling What You Survived. The Cost of Telling What You Survived is presented by DQ Consulting LLC, empowering individuals and businesses to grow with clarity and confidence. Today is a different kind of conversation. This is not about inspiration. This is about readiness. Because not everyone who wants to tell their story is emotionally prepared to hold what comes with it. And writing without the readiness can do more harm than good. Felicia, today we're walking writers through what it actually means to be ready for telling their story, sharing what they've survived. So my first question is, when a story feels heavy, how can a writer tell the difference between emotional work and emotional trauma?
When it comes to emotional work and emotional trauma, I think they have to first of all try and assess what their mental and emotional capacity is. As we've talked about before, if you are writing something and it triggers you to the point that what you put on the pages is going to be hurtful, or it sounds more vindictive than it does as a way to heal, then you know that you are writing in a mental and emotional space of trauma. Okay. But when it comes to emotional writing, as you write, you are offering tools and comfort, even in your words. You're speaking to the person and not at the person about what happened. You're not just saying, again, oh, this is what happened to me, and this is what they did, and woe is me. You are saying, even though this has occurred to me, look at me, see how I have healed from this. I want to help you be this way. I want to help you be courageous enough to tell your story. I want you to read these pages and understand that I've been where you are, but trust and believe this book can help you get where I am.
I like that, Felicia, because it really is a tightrope that we walk between emotional work and then emotional harm. And that's the reason why, as we've discussed before, it's so important to have that support system in place beforehand, because hopefully they would be able to help you if they're becoming part of your beta readers, or if you're just talking about what you're writing, they would be able to see, oh, the person is writing from a stance of emotional harm versus emotional work. So
yes. I was going to add too, Teresa. I just want to say, for those that are aspiring to write their story, that I would love for them to just consider, before they ever write a single word on that paper, before type it, before they title their chapter, before they decide who gets to be in their story and who doesn't, that they need to think about a deeper question that is out there for them that needs to be answered. Again, are you really emotionally ready to tell the truth? Not the polished version of it, but are you ready to, without hurting anyone else, truly expose your truth? Not that version that's going to keep you safe in a box and hid, but that version that is going to open you up and make you transparent in front of other people, that is going to make you vulnerable. Are you ready to do that? Because the truth is going to cost them something to say it. And so they need to think about that. Am I ready to pay the cost that's going to be required of me to tell my story? Do I have the courage to do that? And confront the parts of my life that I have survived to help somebody else survive it. Especially if I have to be honest and say whether or not I've actually processed it. So I just want to add that, and I know that's a lot to it, but again, I want to emphasize that so much because it is a lot to be considered before you bring that book out to the public.
Absolutely, because that really sets us up for, what are some clear indicators that a writer may be overwhelmed or approaching a breakdown?
Well, when it comes to those emotional and mental indicators, and they're writing their personal story, they have to think about, what do I feel? That's the first thing. What do I feel? Is it anxiety or nervousness? If that's what you're dealing with, that may be a mental or emotional indicator that you may not be ready to push to send it to the publisher. Are you afraid of the judgment of other people, what they're going to say? Then maybe you're not ready to push send or submit yet. Do you feel guilty? Am I exposing way too much? That's another emotional indicator. And that's another signal that, maybe you need to go back through that manuscript and be sure, that you're ready to put it out there to the world. Do you feel shame? Are you asking yourself, well, how are people going to see me once I put this out? Are you more concerned about that? Then again, that may be an emotional indicator that you may not be ready to submit that manuscript or to get that published. Do you feel like, oh, I really got to just get this right. It's got to just be perfect. And how does that make you feel when you go through that? Again, that's something to think about. Do you feel any heaviness or resistance to wanting to put your story out there and share it? If so, those again are going to be some emotional and mental indicators that you might not quite be ready to push send. You might not quite be ready to take that first copy, that galley copy that you get and go through and say, yeah, it's a go, we're ready. Those are things that you have to consider. Have you thought about what if they deny that it's true? How do you feel about that? Are you ready to deal with that? How am I going to deal with if they deny that this is true? Am I ready for people to know this? Is that question constantly coming up for you? Then emotionally and mentally, you may not quite be ready yet to do this. And what if I relive this while I'm writing it? Well, what if you do? That's going to tell you also where you are emotionally and mentally. So those are some indicators. If you're anxious or nervous, you feeling shame, guilt, the pressure, fear of judgment, or a resistance, then you may want to write or sit with yourself a little bit longer before you publish your story.
Well, Felicia, this leads me to boundaries. What do emotional boundaries look like in real practical terms while writing? Because that checklist that you basically just gave us, it's a heavy checklist. So what does emotional boundaries look like when I'm sitting down to write?
When it comes to your emotional boundaries, the first thing that you have to do is to set for yourself your own personal time that you're going to write, because this is going to be heavy for you. So you have to set up boundaries and say, you know what, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., I need time to not be disturbed, to be alone, so that I can write out and process my feelings while I'm dealing with this. Another important boundary that you want to set is, if I do share this with someone, I am not open to the criticism from someone about it. Again, I need a support system around me. So if I share this with you, I need you to be supportive of what I'm sharing with you and understanding of what I'm sharing with you. What I don't need is the criticism coming from you for this, because again, this is a difficult thing to do already. And then set a boundary with yourself. Say, you know what, self, I am going to help you to be strong and courageous enough to write this. Okay, self, you are not going to back down from this. You are going to stand in it. You are going to prepare yourself to do what needs to be done to set yourself free through the pages of this manuscript. I am not going to allow myself to self-sabotage what I'm trying to do here.
I like that. Set myself free through this manuscript. But there's a whole lot of work that is taking place before I get to the place I'm trying to set myself free, guys. Because if you haven't done that work, you're really now opening up yourself for a larger audience to judge you.
Right.
And you may not be ready for that. So I think it's so important to understand that as we are moving forward. So if a writer has stepped away, how do they safely re-engage with their story? Because they may realize that, oh, I need to do a little more work before I can move forward. So when they step away, how do they safely re-engage without traumatizing themselves, re-traumatizing themselves, or unknowingly to them, letting their words become that sword?
I would say a good thing would be before you even go back, create an emotional checklist for yourself. If you've walked away from that manuscript, why did I walk away? Did I walk away because I was just tired, need to step back and maybe put a few more things in order or organize? Or was it so overwhelming for me emotionally and mentally that it almost triggered me? Why did I walk away? You have to talk to yourself about that, first of all, the why of that you walked away. And then as you prepare to go back, let me create this emotional checklist for me, this safety plan that I can come up with, that I can safely and calmly and courageously go back, open up this laptop, and start back typing out my feelings and my experience. Checklist can consist of, okay, as I'm getting ready to go back, do I have a safe space or safe person in this process? If I had them before, are they still there? If not, I need to get somebody that's going to be a safe space or safe place for me. Um, do I have a strategy in place now when I need to pause, when my emotions get high? When I get to the place where my heart is beating fast, or my head is hurting, or I feel like I want to cry, or I feel that same fear and trauma again. What type of strategy do I have in place for that? Do I need to stop and breathe? Do I need to meditate? Do I need to play a little music? Do I need to step outside the door? Mm-hmm. And maybe just take a look at the flowers or trees to calm myself. Do I know my limits when it comes to my writing? How much time am I going to put into this time, and make sure that I stay in that box? I'm going to give myself an hour or 45 minutes, and I won't do more than that, because more than that made me realize the last time I got a little bit too much emotional or stressed out from it. And also include that I do have permission to stop without feeling guilty about it or beating myself up about it, because I have the right of self-care even in writing. So make yourself a little emotional checklist. Go through it before you step back to that laptop or that writing pad, or however you're recording your story, even if you're speaking it and putting it on audio.
Felicia, I think that's so important. We have to be intentional about every aspect of this process. And it's no different from someone who's not writing what they survived, but it's magnified, that need. When you're writing what you survived, you have to really listen to everything that's happening. It's almost as if your senses need to be heightened, all of them, so that you're aware of how your body is responding, so you know when to step away willingly, so that you're not having to step away after getting yourself in an emotional state.
Right.
So I think that is so important. I just
like, how are you feeling? When you write it, how are you feeling? Are you feeling like you're reliving the whole thing all over again, or are you just feeling like I'm releasing and I'm getting better step by step, page by page?
So reliving versus releasing is what we're looking for.
Yeah. Are you I was just gonna say again, are you reliving? Or are you just walking back through this thing, re-traumatizing yourself?
Thank you. This segment is brought to you by Irene Vexberg. For years, doctor ignored her pain and no one believed her. Then everything changed. Irene Vexberg now shares her journey from chronic pain to hope, inspiring thousands daily. Follow Irene Vexberg on Instagram. Find her at GOT Health _ Vaxberg, which is VAKSBERG. gothealth_Vaxburg. Now, Felicia, how do you help someone decide whether to continue writing or take more time away?
To decide whether or not you need to continue writing or take more time away, I think one of the important things is to ask yourself, because you do a lot of talking to yourself. You spend a lot of time with yourself because it's you doing this. Am I seeking this for healing or validation? And by asking that, it helps you to be able to move forward or determine if you need to pull back. Am I seeking healing or validation in writing this? If no one agrees with my story, am I still going to be able to tell it? What are some of my thoughts about this when I'm writing this, when I'm doing this? Excuse me, we go back to, am I doing this because I want them to fully understand what I went through and how I got through it? Am I writing this because I hope that the person that did this to me or persons apologizes to me? Am I writing this because I need people to see what I went through? So think about the fact that if you're doing this for healing, that healing is going to be internal. It's internal healing that's going to come out on those pages and should reflect. Or are you doing this for validation? And if it's just for validation, that's going to be something inside of you, but that also will show on those pages. So ask yourself basically what it is that you want people to see when they read your story, your book.
Well, if the people in their story never agree with their version, how does the writer assess whether they're emotionally stable enough to stand in their truth?
Again, it's going to go back to the reactions and that you experience as you write that. At some point, you have to be able to look in the mirror and say, you know what, but that is my truth, and I'm going to stand by it regardless of whether or not they agree with me or not. I needed to do this for me to heal, and I needed to do this because I don't want someone else to go down this road. And maybe you had a really difficult time, trying to get through that trauma and get through what occurred to you. I want to be to help somebody not go down the same road that I did. And so set that in your mind. If that's what you want, this is, again, we go back to day one. This is the tool I'm going to offer to someone else. Whether you agree how this tool is formed and what it's for or not, I'm going to be courageous and bold enough to put my story out here and do what I need to do for me and another person that is out there waiting on the answer. I have that answer for them. I have that help. I'm that resource. I'm that tool. And it doesn't matter if people agree with you or not, because they weren't there with you in that moment. Nobody but internalizing what it is that you went through. No one but you emotionally and mentally knows what that truly was like.
And I think, Felicia, I know the answer to this, but I want to ask it anyway, because I want to see if we can make this plainer for the audience. When we're revisiting painful moments, it's the writer has to be accountable for what they're writing, because this is a tool, as you've said. So when revisiting painful moments, how can a writer tell if they are observing or experiencing or reliving it? Observing the experience, rather, or reliving it, because you talked earlier about healing is internal and validation is external. So how does the writer tell if they are observing this experience or whether or not they're really reliving it?
If you're reliving it, you're going to relive those emotions. Those thoughts are going to run through your head. You're going to feel that heart beating fast, You may feel some of that fear. You may even all of a sudden smell the smells that were in the room. It's going to be almost like I'm right back in that place. And you feel that fear. So you know, okay, I'm starting to relive this thing that occurred to me. And that's where those strategies are going to have to come in place. What do I need to pull myself out of that? So that what I really want to do is to write this from a place internally of gratefulness that I made it out of that I've made it through the things that triggered me. I want to write this from a place of joy, from a place of being a conqueror, a survivor. What does that feel like? That is more joy and gratefulness inside of you. That tells you that I'm not writing from a place of reliving, but I'm writing from a place of restoration.
Mm-hmm.
You
and
know,
your rest. I was just going to say, restoration is a heavy word.
yes, that is, hey, you have been restored, you have been pulled up.
Yeah.
You know, for somebody may have helped you get back up, that safe space person or that circle that you had, you know, or you just did the emotional work and got it done, and you set your mind, you know, mentally you also did the work and said, I'm ready. I can talk about this. I can stand on stages. I can come on virtual platforms, and I can smile as I talk about this because I have come through this.
So, Felicia, you know, that takes me to this question. What does true emotional readiness look like before a writer shares their story publicly?
Again, we have to go back to that checklist. Are you emotionally prepared to share your story with the public? What does that look like? I am clear on justifying my truth. I have no problem with that. I am brave enough to be able to justify my truth. I'm not seeking your validation for that. That's one thing that it looks like. I am able and willing to protect my own self when telling my story. That's another way, you know, that it looks. I also realize that I have support already in place before I publish this book. I am not just only creatively ready, you know, but I am emotionally ready. And that confidence shows even in the way that you speak, that you tell your story. People can hear in your tone. You know, if you're still struggling to come through that thing, if it still got a grip on you, or if you've walked all the way through it and out of it, and you standing on the other side of it, they can hear it in your voice. They can see it on your face. All of that tells them that you are emotionally ready to stand out publicly and to share that thing. You know, it also looks like, very simply, it looks like courage. It looks like bravery. You can see it on even on the in the body language of a person. You know, the way that you sit when you're telling that story. You know, does your back sit up straight? Are you smiling? Is your head up? You know, or is it down? Are you rubbing your leg a lot because it's really still too heavy, you know, for you? And so the person that's listening to you, they're saying, well, she wrote the story, but it's not authentic because it looks like she's still struggling and battling through that herself. So what is in her book or her story that's going to help me? Because I'm in that place. So even your body language shows if you are emotionally ready and strong enough to show people this new version that you say you have become.
So in actuality, to sort of sum it up, I need to have moved towards a stance of restoration. Because
Absolutely.
when there's restoration, all of the things that you've been outlining, which are tools for the audience, that you can examine yourself. If restoration is right here, and I'm still way over here, this might not be the time. I might want to start the process, getting people in place, checking with legal, but I don't need to be writing because I am still so far away from restoration. And understand, guys, when we talk restoration, there's never full restoration. We're not saying that you're going to ever be free of your trauma. No, because we can always be triggered, but we have to be in a place where we can talk about it. And some people may not like
Have
this
your
word,
strategy.
but I'm going to use this word, Felicia, comfortably, meaning that my body language doesn't portray what let me say it different, so that my body language doesn't contradict what I'm saying. Because otherwise, like you said, Felicia, I'm trying to put a tool out to help other people, but I still need the tool because I haven't gotten close
Absolutely.
enough to restoration. And understand, like I said, God, restoration it's like chasing something. It's gonna move, but you're gonna still be going forward because again, we have experienced a trauma and that cannot be changed. So
Yes.
we're learning how to live in this new normal for us. But we can be
Right.
very productive in this new normal. But as you said, Phyllis, you gotta just be mindful.
And you have to understand too, they have to understand that emotionally doing this, as we said previously, that is that emotional work is going to stretch you. You know, so that's another thing. You're going to feel like you've been stretched, you know, when you're trying to write this. You know, you're going to be emotional, but you're still going to be aware of what it is that you're writing and what's happening with you emotionally. You might even feel, you know, kind of exhausted or tired from doing that. But you don't, if you feel while you're writing it, all of a sudden like you're unsafe, you know, and it's not good for you to be doing that, then yeah, step back from it. Someone reached out to me the other day that's wanting their story written, and they initially said, you know, I'm ready to tell this story, I'm ready to write it. A couple of days later is, I don't think that I can do this. I don't think I'm emotionally ready. I just don't think I'm ready to open my mouth and to share and to say it. And I know I said that I was and that I wanted to, but I don't think that I can. But I assured them that is perfectly fine. And that is a good thing because you've checked in with yourself and you're gauging where you are. And so I that's progress right there. That's another step towards it, even though she didn't see it that way, but it is, because I wouldn't want you to try to start this and then leave the writing session worse than when you came, you know, or when you started it. You know, if you feeling out of control or disconnected from it, it's not time. So I commend that person for being able to say that they felt overwhelmed, or you know, maybe they were close to breaking down about it all over again. They watched and listened to their body and their behavior, you know, and not just what they thought. They thought they were ready, but their body and their behavior said, nope, we're not ready to do this. You know, you having physical symptoms that are saying we're not going to do this right now.
And that is so important, Felicia. You know, as we bring this episode to a close, I just want to remind the audience that what we have walked through today is not just a conversation. It's a checkpoint, you know, because with writing your story requires more than honesty. It requires the readiness. If you're listening and realizing that writing your story is requiring more of you than you expected, you don't have to navigate it alone. Felicia works with writers and works with writers through her Aspiring Writers and Writers Workshop, helping them access their story in a way that's structured and supported. And once your story is on the page, I work with authors to refine, strengthen, and elevate their writing so that it communicates clearly and powerfully for the audience, because it is a tool. If you're ready to move forward with guidance, this is the work we do. And for those who are asking yourself, am I really ready? We've created something for you too. Felicia has developed a mental, emotional readiness checklist through her Safe Space initiative that helps writers assess where they are before they move forward. So if you'd like to access that checklist, you can email us or leave a message here in the comments when you are watching this, and we'll send it directly to you. So this is not just about writing your story. It's about protecting yourself while telling it. So stay connected to this series. And before you go trying to take care of someone else, please make sure you take care of yourself first.